So how do you buy tax lien certificates? You're going to love today's video because in this video, I'm going to tell you the insider secrets to things like redemption periods, interest rates, why often the stated interest rate is not at all the interest rate, and also how to buy properties with no competition at all. So tax lien certificates are sold by some of the states, but not all of the states. So just to make your life easy, I put a link down below to a list of the states that sell tax lien certificates, because not all of them. So if you click on that link, that's my gift to you. You can have a list of the properties where tax lien certificates are actually sold. Now, tax lien certificates, as you may know, offer very high rates of interest, up to 36%. Depends on the state. Maryland is at 36%. Other states vary, but you can really make a lot of interest on money that you invest. But what you want to do is be careful about what kind of properties and certificates you invest in. Although all of the certificates are backed by the taxing authority of the local government, if it's not a good property, you're not going to get paid. So the number one rule of tax lien investing is that you make sure that the property you're buying a lien against is actually a good property that someone wants to keep and is going to pay. Because if someone doesn't pay their taxes, all that's going to happen is one of two things. Either you're going to get the property. That would happen, for example, in Illinois, where if someone doesn't pay, ultimately they just hand you the keys to the property and give you the deed, which you probably got for 2 or 3 years worth of taxes, which is fantastic. In other states, the property is going to be put up for an auction. And an example of that is in Florida. You buy the tax lien certificate. If they don't pay, then they're going to put the property up for an auction where bidders will go, and whoever the high bidder is gets the property. And as long as the property is sold for enough, you'll get your principal back plus your interest. But if it's a property where nobody's going to bid on it, like a useless strip of land, then you're not going to get paid and you're just going to lose your investment. So the number one thing is make sure that your property is a good property that supports the tax lien. It's like good collateral for a loan is probably the best way to put it. So make sure that it's that so that you will get paid, because the vast majority of liens do pay off where you're going to get your interest, but the ones that don't are the useless pieces of land that nobody's going to bid on. The other thing with tax lien certificates is I wouldn't buy them against commercial properties, especially ones that could have been used as a factory in the past, anything where there may be environmental pollution, because that's where you're going to have trouble finding a bidder for it. And if they give you the deed for the property, you may not even want it, because if you get a deed and become the owner of a property with environmental contamination, then you're responsible to clean it up, and you don't want that. So I would say just skip the commercial properties, stick with the residential. It's much safer. The other thing you need to know is you need to learn the local rules, because these rules are all over the place. They arrange everything from, how the sale works. That's not as complicated, but more importantly, how things like right of redemption work. What a right of redemption is, it's the right for someone to come back after the tax lien has been purchased by you and to redeem their property, meaning save their property from the tax sale by paying off the taxes. You need to know how long it is. Like, just for example, in Illinois, it can be 2.5 to 3 years. And that means you're buying the lien today, and if someone isn't redeeming it, you're going to be sitting there for 2.5 to 3 years, watching paint dry, waiting for that property owner to either redeem or not redeem. And during that time, you can't take over the property. You can't go and rent it out. You can't really fix it up. You can't do anything with it other than if it's empty, you could secure it, but that's about it. So it's just not the kind of thing you want to get into, because the property can decline a lot over those periods. So you want to make sure that you understand what the redemption rights are. And I'll just give you the contrast between Illinois and Maryland, because it's just on top of my head right now. Maryland, they have 6 months to redeem. If they don't pay you off within 6 months, then the property goes to a tax deed sale. And so you're not going to be sitting there for 2.5 or 3 years like you could in another state. So make sure that you understand those rules. In the list of tax liens that has some information about that, make sure that you proof all that information and get it current, because that list was current when I made it, but it's not like I'm maintaining it every day. So you need to make sure that you confirm everything that's on there with a local attorney, which brings me to another important part of this. And the answer is you absolutely need a local attorney who's knowledgeable in tax liens and tax deeds and tax sales in general in any place you're going to be investing, because there are very specific rules that you often have to adhere to that people won't tell you about. There are notices that have to go out on a certain time basis. They have to go to certain people. They have to go out, and if they don't, you could lose the entire value of your certificate. So make sure that if you're going to get into this business, that you learn about it, first of all. I mean, learn it from a business sense. So you're going to get a course on it, maybe 2 courses, go read through those. But also sit down with a local attorney who deals in the county where you're going to be investing and understand how it works in that county. You also have to do your homework in advance to understand, do I need to register in advance of the sale? Often you do. Do I have to put down a deposit? Often you do. When is your payment due? Often the payment is either immediate or within 24 hours of the sale. You need to know those rules because you need to be prepared. It's not the kind of thing like, oh, I was going to get a loan to pay for my lien. There's no loan to pay for your lien. You have to be on top of your business. Make sure before you're going to bid at any kind of sale, you get the terms and conditions of sale from the county, read through them carefully, ask any follow-up questions, and make sure that you know what you're doing before you get into these sales, because the time to learn is not after you have your money down. The time to learn is before you put your money down, and people that go in without understanding will typically lose their money. People that go in with an understanding, though, can make a lot of money at these sales and do really well, but you need to be that educated person who's investing money, not the wildcatter that's just playing the lottery, basically. Another good thing about these auctions is many of them are moving online. So they're actually auctioning off liens and properties, for that matter, online rather than where you had to go down to the courthouse. This is good because it's far more convenient. Downside is it makes it more competitive, so that's definitely a downside to it, but at least you can participate in more auctions and kind of make up for it that way. You could also pick the best places to operate that might not be in your backyard. Like you may be in a state that doesn't offer tax liens, and you can still bid on places that do. I think that's really good. But there's also a lot of complications to tax sales. And I would just say in general, this is a way that you're taking a property from someone else, and if they don't redeem your lien, then it can get complicated. And you need to be prepared for that if you're going to get into this business, because you'll have owners who are still sitting there squatting in the property after they've lost it, and the auctioneer is not going to get rid of them for you. You have to get rid of them. So that can involve a legal process called an ejectment action, can be expensive and certainly time consuming. So you need to make sure that you're up on all of that. So consult with a local attorney, and also think about maybe taking a different tack on this. And I would say that another approach that I think is better is working through properties that have already been exposed to the process but were never purchased. And I have a friend of mine who is a world-class expert in this, who pretty much invented this way of investing. It's where you're going to get lists of properties that are ready to purchase from the county, typically for pennies on the dollar, just the past due taxes. And you can look literally through lists of thousands of properties and pick the ones that you want. They don't have rights of redemption. They don't have the complexity. Usually they're unoccupied, and you can only buy the ones that are unoccupied. It's very easy to figure out. So that, I think, is a better option to this. And if you want to learn more about that, a really simple and free method for you to do that, if you look down below, there's a link to my interview with Tony. I spent about 20 minutes talking to him about what he does and how he does it. I think it's amazing, and definitely the way to do this in this market is not to go to the auctions. I think it's to bid when the property is just sitting there, and just buy it almost like you would do with a realtor. Slightly different because it's certainly much cheaper, and also there's less hand-holding, but you don't have to worry about the competition. You don't have to worry about all the rules and all that. Instead, you're just buying properties that, as long as you check them out, are going to be vacant and much less likely to have any issues. Those I really like, and to do that, free video right here on YouTube. That's a way to get started with that. You can learn from Tony and see if that might be your route. Because I personally think that's better for most people than buying the tax liens. Because the other thing that's tricky about tax liens that people don't know is that a state like Florida that starts at 18% interest rate, almost none of the liens end up at 18%. Typically they end up at 0%, where then you get the state mandated minimum of a couple of percent. So, it's one of those things where it often, until you get into the complexity, looks like this amazing thing. And then when you get into it, you're like, this is interesting, but there must be a better way. The better way is what I talk about with my friend Tony. So go, just do yourself a favor, click on the link below, go see Tony's video. And if you want to learn more about real estate investing and tax liens and tax deeds and tax sales and overages and foreclosure auctions, this is the channel. So definitely subscribe to my channel if that's what you're interested in. And also, if you have questions or comments, put them down below. With my staff, I go through them, I check out the questions, and I get to as many of them as I can. Love answering your questions. I love to hear what you're thinking. And I'd love to help you go forward to the next phase in your life. Maybe this will be your new entrepreneurial venture. Hopefully it'll be something that's very profitable and fun for you. And I'd love to answer your questions. Just put them down below because hopefully I can get to them. And the next time I'm doing a video, maybe it's answering your questions. So thanks for being here today. Click on the interview with Tony and I'll see you over there.